All right, I'm recording.
Okay, yeah. So when you first go into Tabletop Simulator, this is the screen you're going to see. There's this little chat window down there, but just ignore it. That's just a bunch of randos online anywhere talking about stuff. If you want to host, you choose Create here. You can ignore these buttons for now. You can choose Create. There's three options. Single player is if you just want to create a game where you're playing by yourself. That's what I do when I'm just making a map or goofing around, trying to figure stuff out. You can set up multiplayer. And then there's this hot seat one, which is basically it says here to play on the same computer with multiple people, or if you want to play a game by yourself, but actually be taking turns doing player
Oh,
one, doing player two. So it's like everybody's on the same computer, but multiple people have, you have all the player one setups and hands and all that.
gotcha.
Um,
So that's how Liam and Zach could play HeroScape if they wanted
yeah,
to,
they could play on the same screen
but you
and
can't
just swap
move and
out.
see. Yeah, it doesn't work well. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It might be worth a try, actually, but because they choose their own colors. Anyway, um, that's how that works. The hot seat thing. In fact, I'll just open up. Well, no, I'll do multi.
Yeah, we won't use that. It'll be
You
multi.
want to do multiplayer? Are you going to get on?
I am getting on. Yeah, so get a
Okay.
multiplayer and I'll get on with you.
So I'll do multiplayer. It's already going to default. This is a host server and host name that I've been using, so it just defaults to that every time. But you can name your own, whatever you want. It'll just default to what you did last time. Slider lets you set max number of players.
Can you change that once you're in?
I'm not sure, but the best practice is just to set it higher than what you think you need. That
Okay.
way, if other people, it's not like there's a reason to go low. If even, I mean, usually when you, me, and Zach are playing, I have the max players set at 4 or 6 anyway, so
Okay.
it's not a biggie. Yeah, I usually just leave it at wherever it's at, unless I need to go up. Create server. What it'll do is it'll default to this room or a room that looks like this with this menu.
Now
This
most
menu,
people aren't going to have anything here, right?
yeah, you will. So some of this stuff will be here, but this stuff down on the bottom will be more empty. All this classic stuff and DLC stuff, this is stuff that basically either stuff that they just make default available to everybody, like chess, stuff like that, or DLC that they want you to subscribe to or buy or whatever. I never pay any attention to this line. The only lines that matter are the blue and the red ones, your workshop stuff and your save and load stuff. So this is the stuff that you actually do want.
So I know, and if you can show how to find workshops in tabletop, that'd be great. But I've never seen the save and load. What is the workshop or the actual games that you want to play, right?
Yeah, so you actually do have to subscribe. So I guess I can show you how that works real quick. I'll have
Yeah,
to
that would be
switch the
great.
screen to something
So
else.
do it for Settlers of Catan. That was one game.
So yeah, you don't actually do it. What are you seeing? Are you seeing this?
I'm still seeing your world the tabletop sim.
Okay.
Yeah,
Let me share again the other screen. So this
the
is
Steam
actually
scene.
the Steam screen here. Okay, see that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you'll notice over here on the left, it says Tabletop Simulator running. Tabletop Simulator here. That's what this big banner is. This isn't a Steam banner. This is Tabletop Simulator. So that's
Gotcha.
what I'm actually in right now. So all these menu items here, store page, find groups, discussions, this is all related to Tabletop Simulator specifically. So the main place you want to go is to Workshop. Workshop is basically just a place where people have uploaded stuff that they've made. Once you're in Workshop, it's gonna throw some promo stuff at you, but you can just go up to search Tabletop Simulator. So if you were gonna play HeroScape, you can type HeroScape. The search is really bad. It's not a good search, but it'll come up with all kinds of stuff. So what you're looking at here is what's important to remember is these are things that just regular users have made. They've taken their own board games and scanned the images and uploaded them and made 3D models and put it all online and available in this physics simulator so you can do stuff. So once you see stuff that you like, and it takes a while to figure out what you need, you can just sort of click on it and to say subscribe. So this check marked one here, I'm already subscribed to this item. This one down here, this is HeroScape in French. I'm not subscribed to that, but I could by clicking this little
So,
plus.
so some of these are completely self-contained games with turns and play. Like you come in and it's like you're playing and it keeps score. I know
Yeah.
our Carcassonne kept score for us, and some of
Yeah.
them are literally terrible stuff. Right?
Yeah. So, like, for example, HeroScape's not very scripted at all. Scripted meaning automated gameplay. But if you go into Gloomhaven, what you'll see for Gloomhaven is there's ones like, oh, let me find the actual one. I've already subscribed to it. But if you wanted to do Gloomhaven, you would do this one here, and you can see if you actually click on it, it'll bring up a little window, and there's info down here for it. It says contains full game plus this, based on second printing. It also says right here, Gloomhaven Fantasy Setup, scripted UI, scripted user interface. So it's telling you this is somewhat automated, but you won't really know until you play it. In the case of this Gloomhaven, it's super automated. Well, it's pretty heavily automated in terms of the gameplay. Still got to play your own cards and stuff.
Do the reviews, the star reviews, mean anything? Are they helpful?
It depends. Basically, if you see stars on it, that's a good sign that it's good. Most things don't have any stars, and that just means no one's bothered to rate it, or it hasn't hit some minimum number of ratings threshold or whatever. I'm not sure.
So if you're new to this, you really want to look for things that are scripted.
Well, no, it depends, because sometimes there's not going to be something that's scripted. So the Carcassonne we played is scripted, like it scripts the scoring at the end. That's cool. But the HeroScape we play isn't, because there is no scripted HeroScape. So
can
it
you
depends on what you're playing.
Can you do a Settlers of Catan and see if there's a scripted one and subscribe and show us how you'd access that?
So we can see what comes up. This says quick and easy way to play, automatic board generation. That's got 5 stars. That's promising. These are sorted, by the way, by relevance. So they tend to pick the stuff that matches your search the most.
I don't even know what Scripts of Catan is.
Well, they're joking. They're letting you know it's scripted.
Oh.
Right. So yeah, let's try it. I'll subscribe. So I clicked on that button. Now I've subscribed.
And this is where it gets tricky, right?
Yeah, well, not really. There's nothing to look at here. You've subscribed, so now I'm going to stop the screen sharing and just go back to Tabletop Simulator, and it'll be in there. So when I go back to Tabletop Simulator,
you'll need to share that again.
What you'll see is, yeah, I'm doing it. What you'll see is now here it is. Settlers of Catan appears on my workshop because I just subscribed to it. So it's as easy as that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Then once I click on that, you load it. Now what it's going to do, this part's a little confusing. When you load something, you're loading a mod basically, and the people who've done that mod have created a table, and they've done things to like change the room maybe, and the lighting and all kinds of stuff is going to be different. Now I've never opened this up in my life, so I don't know what I'm looking at here. But you can see they've got the decks all set up. It looks like here, by the way, whenever you float over a thing and you see that little red circle there, that means this is a clickable button. So here it allows you to change the number of players, harbor placement, standard to random, etc. Right, and then finally you can start game. They've even got a button here. It looks like for beginner setup. So once you're in here on the game, if more people are playing, why don't you join this, Matt?
Yeah, I'm trying. I'm seeing if, oh, there you came. All right.
So right now here on the upper left, you'll see this is my name. The crown means I'm the host. Most things on here, if you hover over it a minute, it'll tell you what it is. So I'm the host. I'm color white. Here's Matt loading in right now. He's at 17% loading. This number next to it is his ping number, so that gives me an idea of how good his connection is. Once he hits 100%, he'll appear. Now, if you scroll out, you'll see they've got some floating bags over here. This is just stuff with content, and they're labeled fields, frames. They've got harbor tiles, etc. Now, once you're in there, if you click on your own name, you can actually change the color. And if you do that, what you'll see pop up around the table are a bunch of spots you can sit at with different colors. So I'm going to choose change color. I'll zoom out again. Here's the 6 player colors, right? You can choose any of these 6, and you'll sit in that spot, and that's going to be your color for the rest of the game, although you can change it at any time. There's also this black and gray. Black is the game master, which is what, if you're tweaking around with it, trying to mod it and make some changes, you can be black. Or if you're playing some games where there is a game master, like a werewolf type game or whatever, you would choose that. The gray
right now you're the host, right?
I'm the host, yeah.
We played around with giving other people the host, but it kicks you out of the server. It's kind of a weird.
It's not that you give them the host, but you can promote people. I haven't tried actually passing the host baton.
How do you promote? Like if you wanted to promote me.
I'll show you in a second. Let me finish what I was saying.
Oh, okay.
Gray one here. This gray is spectator, so people can click on spectator, and then they can watch the game, but they can't actually interact with any pieces. So I'm just going to choose a player. I'll choose blue. It'll put me over here. Notice that my name is facing away from me so that everybody else can see it in theory where they're sitting, but really doesn't matter a whole lot. The promoting thing, if you go up here, you can actually click on this list. If I click on Matt's name, I can change his color. I can mute him. I can kick him out. Oh, there is a give host option here, but there's no reason to do that. What you can do if you want people to have powers of like deleting items and editing items in a certain way, you can promote. It'll ask me promote him. Yeah, I can promote him. And now he gets this little badge up here, which I hover over. It says promoted. So I can see he's got powers to, mostly you would do that if you want to let people delete things or edit the size of things or whatever. Because, well, I don't know how many, I forget what powers exactly you have from the get-go and which ones you get when promoted.
So Ted, I know everybody that I've brought into here, they're immediately a little intimidated by the controls at the top of the screen versus the controls on the far left. Can you kind
controls on the far left, ignore them. If you're new, ignore it. Don't do any of it. Your icon should always be on grab. This other stuff is fancy. It's for scripting and modding and stuff like that. The top menu, though, is important. There's the flip board button, which everybody loves. You can flip the board over. It's not a huge deal because this button right here is rewind time. Do you see that now as a promoted player, Matt? Rewind time.
So let me see. I don't. No.
Okay. So only the host can rewind time. It only goes back 10 seconds in time. But if somebody really messes something up or something bad has happened, you can click on this repeatedly. It has to reload the whole thing, so it takes a minute to happen. But you can do that if you need to. The other ones that are important up here, there's menu. Under menu, it's kind of confusing because there's two different menus you got to be thinking about for the most part. There's menu here, and then there's the options over here. And it's hard to remember which thing is in which thing. But under menu, configuration is the thing that matters. And there's a whole bunch of stuff in here that you can change, just, your look speed and some other things. This is where you can set your graphics. If your computer's running slow, you can come in here and rechange your graphics setting and maybe make it run a little on lower settings. So if you're stuttering or if it's not keeping up, because it's a pretty hefty physics engine, your computer's going to run super hot running this. And if you're on a laptop, if you're not plugged in, you'll drain your battery in 45 minutes playing this. So you can downgrade some of that stuff. Sound settings here. I recommend everybody go into this. Again, this was under controls. Again, this is menu, configuration, controls right here. And there's this huge list of controls. It's a combination of mouse stuff, and ideally you want at least a 3-button mouse with 2 buttons and a scroll wheel with a clickable wheel. And you're gonna have to use keyboard controls too. So take a look at this. I've actually custom set up some of mine.
So Ted, yesterday we were playing Carcassonne with one of the guys had a controller, like an Xbox controller.
Yeah.
And I see the tab there where you can hit controller, but it didn't really change anything.
What do you mean?
Well, he was trying to figure out how to flip the cards, and it was kind of trial and error. Is there a way to see?
Well, the thing about this list is you can click on any of these things, and then you can set it to whatever you want. So I'm just going to set that back to A, but I would assume if you're on a controller, you could do the same thing. You could say, okay, I want to set the flip button to my right bumper button. So you would click that and then hit your right bumper on your controller, and it would set it. I've not done that, but I'm guessing that's how it'll work. It's pretty smooth. But anyway, the main things you want to be able to do are zoom in and out, which is going to be with your scroll mouse wheel. There's also, if you click and grab with the right mouse button. That's how you kind of rotate around like that. There also is a button, I think for me, it's set to an extra mouse button, but I think it's Alt, is it?
A
Where you
P
can,
is what changes from.
no, I'm not talking about P. I'm talking about the one where you can pan.
Oh, for us, we click and hold the roller ball, the roller, mouse roller.
Oh yeah, there it is. Yeah, yeah. So click and hold the mouse roller button. You can pan around about that. Those are the ones that are super important to be able to do all that. The P button is also semi-important. What it does is I'll close that. It toggles you between, you can see up here, first person camera, which you don't want. First person down. They should take it out of the toggle rotation as far as I'm concerned. Then there's top down camera, which puts you straight looking down at it. You can still rotate the table around, but I can't change the angle. And then the default mode is where we just already were, third person camera. And that's where you can do this kind of stuff. So you can get down real low to the table and you can zoom in like this and zoom back out like that. There's a couple of other buttons too. Alt, I think, I don't remember, but
Alt shows your
I've
hand.
got some,
Like,
oh, okay. I've got mine set up to, funky preset buttons, but there's one that lets you, I think it's Z, if you just hover on a thing and you press Z, it'll zoom in on it. So if you want to see, what's this card over here? Just
that's
hover
alt.
over it.
I think for most people, that's default on the Alt button.
Oh, that's
So
Alt. Okay.
any card I want to hit, I
Okay.
just hold over it and hit Alt, and
Yeah,
it zooms
there's
it
that.
out.
And then Z, I guess, does this. It's like a magnifying glass that you can actually zoom around the table like that. Anyway, getting good at that is important, depending on the kind of game you're playing. Then you also are going to have actual items on the board that you can use. So here for Catan, if I'm player green, this is my card. And then here are my little cities. And you can actually grab these and drag them around the board. With your buttons with Q and E on your keyboard, you can rotate the piece. With F, you can flip the piece and around like that. And you can just place it wherever you want on the board. One important thing about picking pieces up and lifting them is that you've got this weight lifter up here, which is a lift height button. You can see there's a slider here. You can set your lift height really high so that when you lift something, it goes way high in the air. Or you can set it down low so that when you lift it, it lifts only a little bit. Most people set it somewhere in this range, kind of in the lower 25% or so. Because if you set it too high, then when you drop it, you're dropping stuff from a big height. So somewhere where I just had it, or even a little bit lower, is an ideal place just for moving stuff around. Some games have things locked so that when you actually set it down, it'll snap rather to a certain position. So you can do that. So I'll hit start game. This Catan game is set up scripted to start the game, so it's randomly set all the tiles for everybody and everything. The robber's already out there. He can be moved. And here's that snapping I was talking about. Notice if I set him down on a hex, he's going to snap to a certain spot. So, and I'm assuming pieces probably do that too. So if I was going to play a house, it not only snapped it, but rotated it in place too.
Ted, could you cover two things that
Yeah.
we're going to get to? The degree thing at the top, and then also how you pick up multiple objects at the same time.
Yeah, the degree thing has to do with rotation. I don't think that's going to be super important in Catan, although it might be with the roads. Like I said, you can use Q and E on the keyboard, or you can set it to some other device if you got it, and it sets your rotation there. So notice for this one, it's rotating me 30 degrees at a time. That's because this is set at 30 degrees up here. You can change that anywhere from 15 to 90. So if I set it 90, it's going to rotate 90 degrees. Well, yeah, I don't know why it's doing 180, but it should normally rotate to that. I would think for Catan, you'd probably want it at 60, so that you're setting your roads, along the edges like that, just like that. And then what was the other thing, Matt?
Picking up multiple cards. Like, say you're buying, say you're building a road and you need, 2 bricks.
Yeah, that's the other thing. There's a lot. It's worth right-clicking on things just to see what you can do with things when you right-click. When you right-click, you get this big contextual thing. One thing you can shuffle, you can cut, you can split. You can also shuffle cards by picking them up and shaking them. So notice this is another important thing. Notice if I drag off this pile and just pull one away, click and drag one away, I get 1 card. If I click on it and I hold it down for a second, I'll pick up the whole deck. That's just an icon underneath there. So now I've got the whole deck. And if I shake it, you see the cards kind of do that. I just shuffled that, and then I can put it back in place like that. So again, if you just click and drag fast, you get one card. If you click and hold, it'll pick up the whole deck, and you can take the whole deck. If you have a bunch of cards laying out and you want to gather them together, you can draw a box around them to select multiple things. Now when I pick these up, these go together. With dice, you can do this and they'll shake and they'll gather together loosely. With cards, what you actually want to do is hit G for gather, and it'll gather them together in a neat stack for you. So now I've got 3 cards there.
And will those automatically?
Notice too, when I hover over it, it says 3. It tells me how many cards are there. That's what these numbers are. So if you want to see how many cards are left, just hover over. There's 19 grain here, 19 ore. There's only 16 lumber here because I put away these 3, but I'll just put them back. Oops. I'll just put them back on the stack like that. The other thing you can do when you right click is you can do draw. So this will draw into your hands. Hands are really important. So it's drawn over here because I'm actually Sukifu. This is my player spot. This is my hand zone right above my name. And notice the cards hover here. Anything that's in your hand not only hovers off the ground here, but it also shows up, you can see down here in this space. And that's because I can move anywhere I want on the board, change my view to whatever, and my hand stays persistent so that I can always see what's in my hand. You got to be a little careful because if you move a piece accidentally into your hand area, oh, it looks like they've scripted this good. Sometimes if you move a piece into your hand area, if it's not scripted in a kind of advanced way, that piece will go into your hand too, and it'll float there, and it'll show up down here, and it's kind of weird. Looks like in this particular game they've disabled that, which is smart. There's also spots here for your victory cards, the longest road. If you get that, these are over here somewhere. Here's the longest road card. So if you get that, you'll get that. There's also, they've got a scoring timer or counter built in here. So as you're scoring, you can keep track of your victory points here. This is actually a pretty fancy scripted setup, but most of the real popular games like Catan or Carcassonne or things that people play a lot, you're going to be able to find a super scripted game like this that's going to work really well. The other thing too, I was talking about the menu, but the other one, I got about 5 minutes here and I got to go.
Yeah.
The options menu is important too if you're the host, because you can do a lot of things here. One, if you go into game, you can do things like change the gravity. Don't mess with the play area. This does not change your table. It only changes the room you're in. There's no reason to change it. But other things you can do in there, one of the most important ones is, first of all, you can turn off a grid if you want to, show lines on a grid. So you can see this table actually is set up with the hex grid in the size of these tiles. That's why things are snapping. They're not snapping to these tiles. They're snapping. In fact, if I put it anywhere on the board, it should snap in place. The other thing is
that on or off in that options.
Yeah, you can turn that the snap to grid on. There's a whole snap off lines center, both lines in center. Right now they've got it turned off, although I don't. Maybe they have these tiles. Maybe they've got their setting. Their snapping set to tiles there. But anyway, the other thing that's important under this is turns. You can decide whether you want to have turns on or not. If you have turns on, it's easiest just to go with automatic. It'll go through the turns, clockwise around the table like normal. And then when that happens, you'll see 2 things. One, a little star appears up here, letting you know whose turn it is. So Matt, on your screen, it should say it's your turn. So if Matt goes in there, he'll be able to end his turn. Go ahead and end your turn, Matt. Now on my screen, it says player Sukifu's turn, and I can end my turn whenever I'm done. All this stuff also shows up in the chat one down here. Make sure you're set on game chat and not global chat. Game chat, it'll tell you, oh, player Mulholland's turn. He ended it. Now it's player me turn. This icon will stay here until I'm done with my turn. I press end turn, and now it goes, the green star goes back to Matt. So you can always see whose turn it is up there when you're actually playing the game.
So as a player, you've covered all the important things as a player. I know there's still some things up there we can get to at a later time. The modding of the notebook, the objects is the one I'm still struggling with.
Yeah, so real quickly, when you have, if you're just playing a game, unless you're really modding around like we are in HeroScape, you don't need to worry about we were making a lot of custom things for HeroScape because it's kind of a customized game. But normally what you want to do is you can go in and there's a couple things. Don't worry about tables and backgrounds. You don't want to change the table because there is a table here. If you bring in if you try to bring in a table, it's not going to change this table. It's going to bring in another table that melds with this table and it'll screw everything up. So don't mess with that. Or with background. You can mess with backgrounds if you want. But really main thing is components. These are default components that come with Tabletop Simulator. There's dice, there's cards, there's a bunch of weird stuff. Tools down here is really helpful. For example, you can bring in a bag. So I'm just going to click bag. Now this bag has appeared in the middle of the table. Also, like a deck of cards, I got to grab and hold if I want to pick it up. But if it's a bag, I can take anything on the table and just drop it into that bag. Although I just screwed up their scripting. I'm getting a message there now. They didn't like that I put that in that bag. And then you can just delete stuff. So a lot of times you'll make custom objects for one reason or another. So I'll show you.
Here's the trouble. You go back in time, right? And that's if you screw something up.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, it's nothing. It's just giving me a message. It's not a big deal. When you go in, last thing real quick, and then I got to run.
Okay.
Last thing is that, again, under objects, there's components. These are the default ones that come with Tabletop Simulator. Saved objects is all the stuff you saved. Oh, and by the way, Matt, this is my chance to show you the awesome, what I did with the awesome HeroScape dice. So I made this, I didn't make this chest, but I found it. Check it out.
Okay.
I made dice with Bridget's help, like the actual big dice we use. Blue defense dice.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, blue defense dice, red attack dice. And what's cool about it is you roll it, and now if you scroll over it, it tells you how many shields you got. If you scroll over the selected group.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
When you're rolling a bunch, it'll be a lot easier.
Oh, yeah, when you're rolling a bunch. And then there's some D20s in there, that just a bag of D20s too. So again, under this objects list, saved objects, but that's fairly advanced stuff. I mean, there's no reason to do that. The tricky part is, you know, if what you can do is you can load anybody else's mod. So if I manage to upload that HeroScape mod, it has some of these objects in it. So if you're in there and you're playing the game and you're hosting the game on that mod, you can just choose one of those objects. Like if I'm like, hey, you know, I really like whatever, I really like this yellow die here, I can right click on it and go down to save object. Now it's going to say root folder. This is just you automatically get this stuff available to you on Tabletop Simulator. Yeah, I'll save it in here and I'll just call it a yellow die, right? And then save my object. And now here it is, it's in my saved objects. Sometimes they don't show up as a graphic, but if I wanted to spawn this again, I could. And I can just
all the things that you have in your saved object are items you have copied from other people's workshops.
Some of them things I've copied, but some of them are things I've made, or you know, like a bag of armies. Like so what we're doing when we select armies for HeroScape is we go to a table full of figures that somebody else made. We take all our figures, put them in a bag. I save that bag as a saved object. We then go back up here to game and load a whole other thing, right? We go in here and I'm going to load Gloomhaven, or I'm going to load, you know, HeroScape map, whatever it is, right? And in fact, I'll do that. No, I got to run. But anyway, yeah, that's how it works, basically. You go in and you get that saved object and you just bring it to your table. The main thing to remember is that these are just pieces that you're dynamically moving around the board. You can do whatever you want with this stuff. You can delete it. You can get rid of it. You can bring it back in. Last thing I'll say real quickly is that it's important to know that when you go to games, okay, if you click on one of these, it's going to load a whole new room, a whole new table, even if it's just a tool. If you don't want to load a whole thing, but I just want a tool, like let's say, for example, within this game Catan right now that I want to play this, right? Yeah. I can click on this, choose additive load, okay? And if I do additive load, it'll add that tool to the room I'm already in. The other thing you can do is you can click on games, and let's say I want just a piece from, this is the coronavirus map. I don't want to load this. I just want something off this table. I go in here, click expand, And now this is a list of every item that's in that map. Here's my position finder. Here's all the road pieces. This is everything that's currently in there. Here's an infinite bag full of stuff, right?
Not in the
And
same
then if I
way.
want that, if I want my position finder in this game, I click on it and it'll load in there somewhere. Yeah, there it is right there. So expand shows you everything that's in a game. If you just want a little piece of a game to bring in the game you're already in. Additive load, if there's just a tool that's separate that you want to bring into a game you're already in. Important thing to remember is you're loading a gameplay space whenever you're playing, and you want to add or subtract stuff to it. If you try to load two things at once, you can't do that. It's going to change them totally.
One last question. I know you got to go, but
yeah.
Let's say we're playing this game and we have to all do something and we want to save this game, but I don't want to.
Okay, real quick. You just go to games, save and load. Up here, do create. Root folder, name it whatever you want. I'm saving Settlers of Catan. Boom, I'm done. Now if I go back up there to my save and load, here it is.
Okay.
In fact, it already did an auto save. It auto saves. But here's number 18. This is the save I just made. And it'll save every game condition in the game. So this Corona one is just a saved game state that we're using when we want to load up the game because we haven't figured out how to upload it yet.
Gotcha.
I got to run though. I got to go pick up some food.
Hey, I really appreciate it, Ted.
Yeah.
We're going to try playing later tonight.
I can't tonight. I'm playing with some other friends, but let's try Gloomhaven tomorrow afternoon. Does that work?
That sounds great. All right, man. Hey, have a good evening.
Yeah, you too.
Bye-bye.